Well, hello there. This is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. I'm really proud of this game. Now, I was playing with my Chestnut Pro, and at the end of a 7-game losing streak, and finally I had this wonderful game where I got 2 brilliant moves in a single match. Let's go take a look. So I had the white pieces in this game, and I managed to play the Queen trap line in the Leonhardt Gambit. Now that's against the Scandinavian. So e4, opponent plays d5, Scandinavian, they take with queen, knight out to c3, and we enter the queen a5 main line, queen a5. And those of you who follow my channel will know that the Leonhardt Gambit is b4. Very, very provocative move. Pretty much, if Black with the Scandinavian is not familiar with the Gambit and it's not played very commonly, they'll be a bit flummoxed, and that looks like they should take. That is in fact the best move. And the main line of the Leonhardt Gambit is now Rook b1 with an attack on the queen. And Rook b1 in fact is a very powerful tactical resource that White has in this position. But in the queen trap line, as you might remember, I showed recently, it is now knight to b5. Another very provocative, arguably not that great, but a very tricky move. The idea here looks like it's the knight attacking the pawn on c7, which will come with an absolute fork of the king and rook. And the knight, of course, is defended by the bishop. Now here, my opponent thought for a little while. Have a look at their time. See? And this was a 15-minute with a 10-second increment. So they thought for a good 20 seconds and decided to bring the queen back to a5. Makes a lot of sense. And now in the queen trap line, we've got our third, somewhat dodgy, very provocative move. And that is now bishop to c4. And what we're hoping for here is for Black to think, okay, White has played some sort of weird gambit. They're now bringing out their bishop to a pretty normal looking developing square. Maybe, I don't know what they're up to, but let's, maybe attack the knight. So, and if they do that, the trap is set. And in this game, that's what I've done. You can see a blunder, a6 attacking the knight. That is a mistake. What they need to do is to play knight f6, basically defending against the h5 square. Because in this position, we now have the first brilliant move of this game. Bishop captures pawn on f7. Brilliant move. The king actually can't take the bishop. They need to let that go and lose the right to castle. However, that's quite inhuman. Like, you wouldn't have ever probably allowed this if you knew what was going to happen. And so most people will take the bishop. King captures bishop on f7, and you can see it's a second blunder because now we have queen h5 check yet again. Black in this position plays the best move, which is in fact g6, but now knight to d6 with check, discovered attack on the queen. They take, and we now capture the queen. And basically in this line, we trade 2 minor pieces for the queen. Black loses the right to castle. King's a bit exposed. However, potentially they can also gain now a little bit of tempo, a little bit of development, because my queen is in a slightly odd place and I need to do something about it. Now here, Black no longer plays very accurately, and you can see Black plays quite quickly. So I can play very quickly here because I knew this entire line, but Black plays very quickly this entire game, and I think this is one of the potential traps when you're playing a 15-minute rapid game, is that you treat it as if we're blitz, and against an equally strong opponent, you're going to end up probably losing. So they now play b6, and that wasn't correct. They needed to consolidate, so they needed to develop one of their other pieces. Here, what I can do is simply bring my bishop, bring it back, attacking the attacking that rook. So they block that attack. However, I now can give a check, infiltrating into black's position again. They block with the knight. Makes a bit of sense, except that that knight is now pinned. So remember, rook b1, strong tactical idea. It's a tactical idea. That pawn is hanging. They develop the other knight. Now, these two knights are very strong in defending each other, provides a lot of cover around their king. However, I now decide to, attack, trade. That's good for me. They develop a piece. That's fine. A rook now joins the attack, now infiltrates as well. They try to attack the queen. That's fine. I can now take yet another hanging pawn. They attack again. Queen now moves out of the way with check. The king is so exposed. And here I decide that, I need to do something about these two knights. These two knights are very, very powerful, very strong. And so rook captures the knight. My second brilliant move in this game, because after knight captures rook, I can now infiltrate again with a check. Now, potentially black could block this way, but they decide to put the king in a safer place. And so I take that knight. So that was very, very good for me, because now they have 3 pieces. I also have 3 pieces. And so their potential numerical piece advantage, initially they had 1 piece up, even though I had the queen, is now lost. I just now need to develop, consolidate, completely winning. So they took that pawn, no worries. I developed my knight. They try to give a fork like this, very clever, but that's fine, because I can just simply move my queen out of the way. Trading would be good for me. They give a check, knight jumps forward. That potentially is, very scary, potentially mate territory. So they decide to defend the f7 square with the other rook, but of course that disconnects those 2 rooks. I now short castles, king is now perfectly safe. They try to double up here, and I think maybe they made a mistake thinking that they potentially had a bank rank mate there, but that's not correct. I push a pawn, giving a second defender of that knight. They move that out of the way, and I think potentially they thought I couldn't take, because I think they thought that they had back rank mate here, but they don't. If I did capture and then capture back, that of course is back rank mate, but I'm under no obligation to actually take their rook. And if they take, I take back with the king. It's completely good for me. So this was a blunder, because I can take that bishop, I capture the bishop, and they realize I think they made a blunder, and here they opted to resign. Good game. Now, have a look at their clock. Over 15 minutes left, which means on average, each of their moves was under 10 seconds. It's like they were playing blitz. I spent quite a bit more time thinking through my moves, and I think that's probably why I won. I just simply outcalculated my opponent, who was rated a little bit higher than me. Good game. My big takeaway from this game is to make use of your time in a game of Rapid. Playing it as if it were a game of blitz is probably a losing playstyle against an equally strong opponent. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.